Good morning, Facebook. This is Dr. Sharita Weatherspoon here again with you live with another great interview with one of our phenomenal contributing authors of the Love Letters to My Girls, 100 Black Women,
Good morning,
the Heart
Facebook.
of
This,
Women and Girls. Um,
this
this,
is Dr.
you want to turn down your cell phone volume. This project is, I don't even know, I'm speechless. And if you know me, that's not normal. But I'm just speechless about the response that we've been getting to this project. With the women who have signed on to be contributing authors and just how people are receiving, what we're trying to do with this project in terms of uplifting and inspiring and motivating and empowering Black women and girls around the world. So I am so thankful to all of you who, have shared encouraging words with me about the project, who joined and partnered with the project in different ways. And I'm just believing for this to just have major impact around the world. And I know that that would not be possible without women like Miss Heather Horton, who's with us today, who signed on to be contributing authors, but for you also as our viewers who are supporting this project, who are going to support this project in multiple ways over the upcoming months. So I'm just so thankful and so grateful for that. Now, as I said, we have Miss Heather Horton here today. Heather is a certified grief recovery coach and the owner of the H Squared Group. She is also known as the Heart Healer. And I am somewhat familiar with Heather's story because Heather and we were actually in a mastermind group together a couple of years
Yes.
ago. That's how we
Yes.
know each other. So I'm somewhat familiar with her story, but I am going to ask her to share a little bit with you about who she is and what she does. And I really want you to tune into what she's saying because you might need her services. I'm just going to throw that out there. You might need her services. So I want you to really pay close attention to her, sharing with you about her journey and the work that she does, and see if something resonates with you about what she says. I want you to follow up with her, and I'm saying that because I do know the work that she does, and I know the healing that can come out of that, and I know that so many of us need healing because of grief that we have experienced, are experiencing, and perhaps haven't healed from in our lives. So I do want you to pay close attention to what she's sharing because I think she has some good nuggets for you. So Heather, go ahead and tell us who you are and what you do.
I'm Heather Horton, and I am a grief recovery coach. I'm a certified grief recovery coach. I'm an advanced grief recovery method specialist. But what I do is I help busy professionals who are struggling with grief to turn their pain into power. And when we hear the word grief, we really think, that's about physical death. But grief is more than about physical death. It's something we experience every day. We just don't want to label it as that. So I really help women and women attorneys, because I am an attorney. I was an attorney before I started my business. I want to help Black women attorneys to identify the unresolved areas of grief in their life, because there's things that happen in our childhood that we've just repressed, and we don't feel like that will contribute to our careers. So we just repress it and we keep going forward. But at some point in our lives, something happens, because life always happens. And it brings us back to that place where that unresolved grief is. So I help women to, I provide safe space for them to have a listening ear, so that they're able to share those things that they may not have shared before, but share it in a place where somebody's validating their feelings and not analyzing, criticizing, or judging them, but just giving them an opportunity to share, letting them know it's okay wherever they are, but there are steps and tools to get you where you want to be. and to be fully whole and living a fully whole, emotionally healthy life.
Mm. Okay, so I want to spend a little bit more time on the work that you do than I have perhaps with other interviews, just because I know the importance of what you do, and that's not to say that what everybody else is doing is
Right.
not important, but I I I think there's something special about this. So talk a little bit about types of grief
Mhm.
and what un I don't know if unresolved is the right word to use, but grief that has not been attended to,
Mm.
the impact that that can have on a woman's ability to move forward in their life.
Hey, that's a great question, and I don't know if I said this, but I want to thank you for the opportunity to share this, because this is, like you said, this is nuggets that can change lives, and change the world. So I want to give you an example about myself, that will really, I think, help people. For me, I came into this work because in 2005, my mother died tragically in a car accident, and I survived that. But for years, after I survived my injuries or recovered from my injuries, I just threw myself back into work. I didn't really grieve the process. And as I was continuing through life, we have two parents. We have a mother and we have a father. But my relationship with my dad was not the greatest. We didn't communicate. And it really started back from when I was a child. And I'm saying all that to say, I didn't think I needed that key male relationship in my life. I just shut it down. I pretty much was waiting for my dad to die, really, because I didn't think there was any way to actually resolve that relationship. And when you ask me what are the different types of grief, there's grief from divorce, there's grief from breakups, there's grief from lack of trust. These are intangible things that you can't really see. Lack of safety. All of those things are what I didn't have when I shut down that key male relationship with my dad. And what kept happening is I was trying to engage in adult relationships with males, but for some reason there would always be this disconnect. And I kept saying, well, I'm a smart woman. I'm intelligent. I should be, I'm single. Why aren't I married? But it's because I had never dealt with that key male relationship. And until we as women, as smart Black women, actually figure out whether our dad is in our life or not, because a lot of us don't have our dads in our life, but my parents were married for 21 years. I was a junior in college before they got a divorce. So my dad was in my life. He came home every day, but we still didn't have that connection. But until I healed that, I couldn't live a regret-free life. I couldn't be happy, truly happy. And the beautiful thing about resolving relationships like that is you can get into a better emotional space while that person is alive, versus having to deal with the guilt of not resolving that when when that person is no longer with you. But I mean, and my dad has not done anything, because what we really need to realize is we can't change people. We can only change ourselves. And when I really started to see and open up and see that changing me was the thing that was standing in the way of everything, when you come to that point and you realize it's you that needs to change, and you change, the people in your life that you think won't change, like my dad, when you model that behavior, it starts to open them up as well.
Right.
Because I really never, now that I'm doing this work, I've told my dad that I did the work on myself to heal our relationship, but he hasn't really ever done anything. But because I'm modeling this new behavior and communicating more and not assuming that I know all the answers. So I'm not asking the questions. It really, it just really opens everybody up, and we operate from a different angle, because grief or unresolved grief is really about relationships and communication. You're not creating relationships and you're not communicating in those relationships. That is what causes unresolved grief. And when that goes on for years and years, and people are just assuming things about folks versus actually having conversations, that's what causes a lot of the discontent in the world and in our immediate relationships.
Yeah. So how connected would you say grief and trauma are? Because there's a lot of talk about trauma these days, and even generational trauma. But how connected would you say grief is to trauma?
I think they're synonymous. And somebody asked me that question. And I think it's when there's so much grief. Trauma is the word that people use. Like if you've got various things, which all of us have various things. So pretty much, if we were honest, we could all say we're walking around with trauma if we're not working through it.
Right.
But it's when you've got multiple things that you're dealing with, and which can, lead to a constant fog every day, lead to you just existing and not fully living.
Right.
And to the point where you're not even breathing. You don't even realize that you're not taking full deep breaths. It's just very short breaths, and you're just trying to make it to the next thing versus actually being present. That's part of some of the work that I do, allowing people to be present, because we're really missing what's going on in our lives when trauma is controlling or trauma is a part of our existence. We're just trying to get to the next thing. And that was another reason that brought me to leave my job and start this business, because I was just trying to get to the next level of achievement, not really focusing on what I was missing in life, what was going on in my life. But it is possible to be able to be smart, achieve things, but also be present with what's going on in your life. Right. Because that stops you from being a reactive person. And then you become a responsive person. Your response is different when you're not just reacting to something.
Right. So many good pieces within what you said. And I thought it was important to spend a little bit more time there because, as you said, grief and trauma are synonymous.
Yeah.
A lot of us as Black women and girls are walking around knowingly and unknowingly with unresolved trauma, grief. And some of us hold on to that as if it's a badge of honor.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Like life has been so hard for me and this has happened to me. And we actually get a payoff from the sympathies and empathies that we get from other people because of the trauma that we've been through and the grief that we're living in now. There comes a point in our lives when we have to recognize that we deserve more than that.
Yes.
That there is a life out there waiting for us that we cannot grab a hold of as long as we're holding on to what has happened in the past. No, you can't change the situation. You can't change the people involved in the situation. So like you said, what's left to change is you.
Yes. Yes. And that was very hard for me to come to the realization. I'm like, I'm a nice person. What do I need to change about me? Right. I'm open to everyone. I listen to people. I'm not nasty. Why would I need to change me?
Right.
But it was interesting. When I embarked upon a coaching program through Coach Diversity Institute, and their first weapon, I would call it, is for you to really, be the change you want to see in the world and figure out, what do you really want?
Mm-hmm.
And after working almost 12, 13 plus years as an attorney, being a leader in my organization, I couldn't answer the question, what do I really want? And it's like, how am I at this point and I don't know what I really want?
Mm-hmm.
And it was at that moment in 2016 that life just began to totally unfold for me. And right after that, I think I met you in the focus group.
Mm-hmm.
So it really was eye-opening. And I would have to say I have lived my best life
Mm-hmm.
just in the last 2 years. And I'm 48, okay?
I can raise my hand for that one too. Yes, yes.
And it's only going to get better.
Absolutely. I just can't wait to see what comes, because it can only get better.
Yes.
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 And that's not to say that we won't experience additional grief and trauma in our lives, but we've evolved, and
yes,
we get that, okay, life happens. To some extent you have control, but there's a lot that we just simply can't control. But when you grab a hold of the idea that you can control your response, and you can control the level of the impact of that trauma of your life and how long it's going to impact your life, it's like kind of reclaiming your power.
Exactly.
Yeah. So then you really have the ability to create the life that you want. And if you want it to be miserable and focused on past hurts and harms and shame and guilt and all of that, it will be exactly that for you.
Exactly.
But if you want something different, you got to do something different.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I'm glad you said that about we will continue to experience grief in our lives, because again, as I said at the beginning, we experience grief every day. We just don't label it as that. And when I say grief, it is the end of or the change in anything that is familiar, a familiar pattern of behavior. Mm-hmm. So if you lose your favorite pen, the normal and natural reaction to that is grief.
Mm-hmm.
It's as simple as that.
Right.
But when you're dealing with something, monumental, that is the end of something, like the end of a relationship, even a retirement, there is grief in retirement, because you have spent time with a community of people every day for years. And for you to walk away from that, that is actually something you have to process. It's not all happy-go-lucky as people want to, make it seem. Yes, you don't have to go to work every day anymore, but what does that really mean for that person? What have they lost? And can they really take the steps to move forward? Because there are some people who retire and they commit suicide because they've lost that total connection.
Their identity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for saying that, because that's what I realized. I didn't know who I was as a person after my mother passed away. And until I started to figure out who that person was, because my mother did everything for me and she was with me for 33 years. So yeah, trying to figure out who I am and how I show up in the world as a person without her in my life that was a huge identity crisis for me. But when I came to the realization of who I was and how I wanted to show up in the world, that's what opened the door for me to be able to work through the relationship with my dad and work through other things. One thing I want people to know is that there are tools for you to get through whatever it is. There are a lot of people that say, oh, I want to get past grief. There's no way to get past grief. It is about incorporating loss into life and figuring out how to respond to it versus react to it.
Right, right, right. That's really good. Not getting past it, but incorporating it. Yeah.
Yeah, because it happens every day.
Yes.
Happens every day. We just don't label it as that.
And I think even what you said about the retirement, like, because people think, especially if you're in a work environment that is like you don't really like where you work, or you don't even really like the people that you work with, whatever the case may be, it's still a loss.
It is.
When you leave, and like, you're happy I don't have to deal with these people again. But that's a major shift in your life.
It is. It is.
And people don't give it the space that it probably needs and deserves, because especially if you work somewhere for a long period of time, that no matter how bad the situation was, and this would even go for, like a woman who might have been in a domestic violence situation, and people not understanding how they can leave and then maybe go back or still grieve the relationship because the relationship was so bad, because that's what they knew.
Right, exactly.
That's what they were used to. There was an identity formed around that situation. And now that situation has shifted, I'm in this new space that's totally unfamiliar, and I don't know how to move through it. So it's easier to go back to the bad situation because that's what you know. Grief and trauma.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and the other thing I wanted to say is we're afraid of the unknowns. Like you said, we're okay with staying with what we know, even if it's killing us. But the other thing I wanted to point out is, for smart women, what we try to do is, if we can't figure it out intelligently, we numb everything. And that's what I did. I was like, okay, my dad's not going to listen to me. Every time I open my mouth, he's going to criticize me. So I'm just going to numb myself to that. But when you numb that, you numb the hard stuff, you numb your emotions also. So my heart was closed off to everything, and everything that presented itself to me in a male form, my heart was closed off to it until I opened my heart back up. Yeah, I was just doomed to fail, because you can't have those hard skills without the soft skills. It makes you who you are. And that's why I've chose the topic, be vulnerable. Because in that regard, it's about me using my voice, but also showing up with my heart. Because as, intelligent women and trying to be, 110% better than everyone else that shows up, because that's the only way we can be accepted in the world. You just try to be hard. But until you actually come to the table with your heart, you're not really winning. You're just, putting yourself in a situation where you're constantly beat up every day. And that wears on you. I mean, you can get to the point where that's why a lot of us are depressed and on, medication and things like that. But when you lead with your heart, your intelligence is not going anywhere. Lead with your heart. You can bring it all to the table.
Right.
And you're not only helping yourself, but you are helping other people, and you are helping to change the world. And that's one of the things. I can't touch everyone, but I'm changing the world one person at a time.
Right.
And it's going to catch on.
Yes. So good.
Especially with this book. Yes.
Yeah. So yes, I like that, the segue into, the letter, and you writing about being vulnerable and showing up with your heart. Because, we can, you said smart women, educated women, talented women, like we show up with our skill sets. That's why we get called on to do everything that we get called on to do. And that's why we're so resilient and we're so strong, because we show up and we get the job done, right? Regardless of the situation. But in that, we do learn to tune down the emotional and the heart. So to remind, our women, our sisters, to show up with your heart too.
Yeah.
And that does take a willingness to be vulnerable. because
Yes.
when you show up with your heart has the potential to be hurt.
Yes.
But I have to say from experience that um, any heart hurt that I've had has been worth all of the heart um, healing, the love, the good things that have come out of showing up with my heart. Like that
Mm-hmm.
far outweighs any of the heart hurt that
Yeah.
I've experienced. And I'm not just talking about like in, romantic or personal
Right.
relationships, but even professionally in business and all of that, we take a risk and
We
you're
do.
taking a risk anyway. So
You
you
are.
might as well show up fully authentically you. And
Yes.
taking that risk because that's the best you that you can offer anyone anyway. So just be
Yes.
that. Just be that.
Yes. Until you heal, you can't show up with that
Mm-hmm.
authentic person
Right.
at all. So yeah, that is why I've termed myself the heart healer,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of times we aren't given the opportunity to share what's really on our heart. I mean, a lot of women are carrying around stuff that they've never told anyone, and
Mm-hmm.
it's killing them. If
Mm-hmm.
you don't let that out,
Mm-hmm.
it is harboring itself somewhere in your body, causing illness, disease. That's why we're dying and getting things, because we
Right.
have so much tied up. We can't trust anybody because of things that have happened. But I am providing this space and speaking to bring awareness. There are tools that are available for you to get to a place where you can share your most intimate thoughts and be okay and not be criticized, analyzed, or judged.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't talk to everybody about this stuff.
Right. 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 Yeah. Yeah. So that's why I think your work is so important. And I think that's, obviously there's a difference with therapy
Mm-hmm.
and counseling. Um, but there's a spectrum, right?
Oh,
And
it
what
is.
you're doing is on the spectrum and can meet a need that exists in our communities without a doubt. And that may be, more easily accessible because we know as much as we're talking about mental health now, that there's still some
Mm-hmm.
stuff around that and around getting therapy and going to see a psychologist or something like that. So
Mm-hmm.
if your need isn't quite there or your willingness to go there is not there yet, here you are
Yes,
providing the safe space.
definitely. Because I'm not a therapist.
Mhm.
I don't have a therapy background.
Right.
I go to a therapist, and I have coaches.
Hmm.
But I will say this: after my mother passed away, I mean, she was like my best friend. So I felt like if I don't talk to somebody, I'm going to burst.
Right.
So the logical thing was to find a psychologist to talk to, which I did, and she allowed me to talk.
Hmm.
But I still didn't start to grieve. All I did was go from dysfunctional to functional. I mean, because I was like all over the place after she died, but I got to a place where I was functional. But the thing about coaching is it empowers you. It takes you from that functional place to empowerment,
Hmm.
where I don't feel like I really began to start to grieve until I worked with a coach, someone who wasn't tied to the book
Hmm.
diagnosis of what was going
Right.
on with me. Like,
Right.
she diagnosed me with PTSD. Like you said, we go with the victim thing. I went with the fact that, oh, I have PTSD. But what did that do for me? Nothing. I still hadn't really opened up and talked freely about what was really bothering me. And it was, I mean, granted, I do miss my mother every day,
Hmm.
but what was really holding my heart back was my relationship with my dad. That key thing that had been haunting me my whole life.
Hmm.
Um, and to get to a point where you're 45 and you're realizing that it can be hard,
Hmm.
because you're like, well, I'm smart. Why did it take me so long to realize that? But
Hmm.
if we're never told that there are tools or things to do that, we just keep moving along. It's almost like that unknown. We don't know what's on the other side of that. So I can handle this. Um, So, yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. So in your
But you don't have to handle it.
right. Because handling is like
Exactly.
yeah, versus processing it and
Right.
moving through it, right?
Right. It's almost like if your tooth was aching, you go to the dentist.
Mm-hmm.
Your heart's hurting. Why wouldn't you invest the time and resources to get on the other side of that?
Right. Yes. So good, so good, so good. So the readers of your letter, when you're writing about being vulnerable, what is the one thing you want them to take away from reading your letter?
Share your voice.
Mm-hmm.
I think when I was, as a child, when I was criticized for things I said, I got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm not going to say anything. And I shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think for most of my life, I only talked when I felt like I could make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't confident in my voice or who I was. And a lot of times I'd show up and I'd just be listening. I mean, that's part of me as an introvert.
Mm-hmm.
But I think also I became an introvert because of, not being allowed to share my voice as a child. And I'm not saying
you're telling my story. You're telling my story.
well, and I don't want to paint the picture that my childhood was all bad because it
Right.
wasn't. I had an amazing childhood, but not using my voice, oh my God, it just really I can't imagine the woman I would be if I had actually used my voice. Yeah, but because here's what I did. I just started asking my dad powerful questions, and everything that I had assumed about him fell by the wayside because what I assumed was not the truth.
Okay.
And when you use your voice and ask powerful questions, you realize that the the way people respond and react to you is not about you. It's about them.
Right.
Because there's stuff that they're dealing with and it comes out and you're the receiver. But it had nothing to do with you. And so if we as a people can realize that when people react to us, it's not about us, I think we'll be more open to figure out what is their story and why are they there and why are they responding that way. So I think this book is going to be beautiful, not just from my Be Vulnerable piece, but from everything because it's about you sharing your story. Everybody's unique. Right. Well, it's not about sharing your story because that's one of the we're not sharing our story, but
story behind the
exactly
based on your story. Yeah.
Right. I think I remember you saying you did this because it would be one experience if you wrote all 100 letters. But everybody's experience is unique, and we need to tell our stories. I mean, on various things that I hear in the media, everybody's talking about telling your story. And at first I thought, well, that's overkill. But no, everybody has something unique that they can add to the world. And so that is why I'm so excited about this project because nobody's experienced the same thing. Even though there may be similarities, nobody's experienced the same thing, but we can all learn something from someone. So use your voice.
Yes, yes, yes.
Don't silence it.
For those of you who are tuning in live or via the replay, I told you all she was going to drop some nuggets. So this has been so great, so great. So I want you to just speak to the woman who, is watching this. They've maybe seen some of the other interviews. They've gone to the site to find out about the project and, something is resonating with them. Something is stirring in them. They think they want to be a part of the project, but they haven't raised their hand and say, yes, I'm going to join you on this mission and I'm going to contribute my letter. What would you say to that woman?
Don't disappoint the women that are going to be our future leaders by not sharing your story. Because so many times, it's interesting. When I was a child, we'd have all these children's programs at church and things. And I would see the older people take advantage of it, and I would see the people behind me take advantage of it. And it would seem like when it got to my age group, we wouldn't have the people who were leaders there to actually implement these programs. So I was always like stuck with the adults. But and I think I've heard this on other interviews, we need a repository where things are available to our future leaders through Black girls who can actually, where you can actually go and look at these things and read these things and know that the path was paved for you, and some things you may not have to go through because you've read this book. It's interesting because my mother gave my sister and I a book that's like love letters. It was probably written by a majority person, but because I can't talk to her anymore, I actually go to that book and I read it and I can hear her talk to me. But to have an opportunity to participate in, and I'm getting emotional, to participate in something that will impact our Black girls is just amazing. So even if you don't think you have a story, you do. I'm telling you, you do. Right. So just start writing.
Yes.
And become a part of this project, because when we look back 100 years, it's just amazing now when we look back 100 years with things that have happened. But to be able to look back 100 years and know that you were a part of this, it's just going to be amazing. So you're missing out if you don't sign up. Yeah. You're definitely missing out. And I'm really shocked that we don't have 100 authors yet, or a waiting list. So take this opportunity. You're going to change your life, and you're going to change your life at the same time.
Yes. So you really talked about leaving a legacy, even though you
didn't
use those words, but that's really what it's about. So even if you don't, have a daughter that you're writing to, or a niece, or, anything like that, there are still other women and girls out there who can benefit from your experience and the wisdom that you've gained from your experience, even from hearing you share words of affirmation that were never said to you, that you wish someone had said to you.
Right.
So again, if something is resonating with you about this project, you should sign up. We are like literally knocking on the door of 100 authors right now. But I agree with you. I don't know why we're not at 500
exactly
right now. I really don't know. But this movement is moving. This book is going to happen. That's for certain. We are going to have a global impact.
Yes,
that's for certain. And we are going to leave a legacy of love and wisdom and inspiration and encouragement for our mothers, sisters, daughters, besties, aunties across this world. And your words are just as valuable as Heather's, or just as valuable as my words. There is a message that only you are going to be able to communicate to some girl or woman out there. And they need you to make that difference in their lives. So if this is resonating with you in any way, I want you to sign up to be a contributing author with the Love Letters to My Girls 100 Black Women Speak to the Hearts of Black Women and Girls Anthology Project.
Yes.
Registration is closing at 11:59 p.m. on Sunday, March 1st. So please, as much as I would want to accommodate you on March 2nd, I will not be able to do so. We have deadlines to meet. So please, if you are thinking about it, go ahead and visit smpl.ro/love letters. I will put that in the comments as well. That's where you can read all the details about being a contributing author and go ahead and sign up. And then you'll get everything you need after that to get your letter done and get it uploaded, and you'll know everything, all the benefits that you get of being an author, all of that good stuff, once you click the button. Okay, now if you are not a Black woman or girl, so you're not going to be a contributing author, but you want to support the project in some way, you want to visit loveletterstomygirls.com, and you can sign up to join our email list, where we will be sending periodic updates on the progress of the project. We're going to be seeking your feedback on our book cover design, on our t-shirt design, sharing some sneak peeks of some of the letters, and you'll get early access to purchase the book. You'll find out about how you can support our crowdfunding activities that are going to help us to donate copies of the book to organizations and groups that serve Black women and girls around the world, how to contribute to our scholarship fund, because we want to put some money into the hands of at least 2 women, one under 21 and one over 21, to support them in either education, training, or business startup. So this is really more than a book.
Mm-hmm.
This is really a movement, and it's going to have global impact, and we need your support to make it happen. So however you can support us, please do so. So let's see, let me take a look at the comments here for a moment.
Okay.
So yes, Angie and Dee and Tanera, Latifa, Ruby Red, Shantae, Madi, Alicia, Cynthia have joined us live. Chuck joined us. Thank you, brother. Joyce. Yes, and let's see. Angie says she can't do anything unless it's from the heart. And her therapist is in her speed dial. I think she told me the other day that she gets house calls from her therapist. So that's good stuff, because I probably need to get house calls too. Yeah, she says she's shocked that we're not at 500 either. But that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I said, we're moving forward regardless. And, we had established a minimum number of authors that we needed to make the book a viable project, because we wanted, there to be substance to it. We didn't want to put out a 15-page book, we wanted there to be substance to it. We have far surpassed that number. Like I said, we are knocking on the door of 100. Will we take more than 100 if those registrations come in by 11:59 on March 1st? Absolutely. That's for a couple of reasons, because I'm sure some people are not going to meet the deadline and will end up not having their letters published. That's just the reality there. But I'm not going to turn anyone away who wants to participate. As long as you register by the deadline. So for over 100, that's absolutely fine. I do want to mention that I do still have a few scholarships available for registration at the partner level. For those of you who are listening who do want to participate, but money is really the obstacle in you participating, you can reach out to me through Facebook Messenger, or you can go to my website and use the contact form to send me an email expressing your interest in the scholarship, and I'll let you know what you need to do that. We're not asking for a lot from you to get the scholarship, but you have to do something to get it, because I need you to be invested in the project. If we're going to make an investment in you to participate, I need you to show that you're committed to it. So there is just one small thing that we're going to ask you to do to get the scholarship, and I have a few of those left. First come, first serve. So you can do that on Facebook, Sharita Griffin Weatherspoon, or Coach Sharita. On my website, you can go to authorsuccessrx.com or powerhouseu.com, and use the contact form to send me an email. You could also go to SharitaWeatherspoon.com, but you got to make sure you spell my name right to find that one. But Heather, it's been so great talking with you today. I look forward to, being able to have another conversation with you later and get more information out about the work that you're doing with women to help them heal their grief and trauma, so that they can live fully authentic lives, being present in the moment and experiencing life to its fullest.
Yes.
So as we close out this interview, if you could just share some, encouraging or motivating words to our viewers. It doesn't have to be related to the book at all. Just, anything that you just want to share that, might just help spark something or increase the level of joy in someone's heart, that would be great.
Well, the thing that comes to mind is that everything that you want is on the other side of fear. And it goes back to that vulnerability piece. When you approach things with your whole heart and your mind, you're unstoppable.
I don't know if you know that that's something that I say, everything you want. It's on the other side of fear. Like, I thought it was an original quote. I don't know. Maybe we both heard somebody else say it.
Right.
But that is one of my favorites.
But it's so true. It is so true.
Absolutely. And I can witness to that myself, my own story, which one day I will share.
Okay.
But yeah, everything you want is on the other side of fear. So for those of you who are watching live or watching the replay, thank you again for the support that you've shown us for this project, this movement, to just speak love and sisterhood to our sisters across the world. We will not be able to do what we're planning to do without you. So we pray and hope for your continued support on this mission. Heather, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
I just leave you with my constant reminder that your words have the power to uplift, to inspire, to motivate, and to empower. So go ignite the power in your words. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Thanks.